live.
This is a nice shot. I'm gonna try to take a photo.
Just waiting for it to.
Actually,
Just pull up Facebook. Make sure we're on. Yeah,
I never heard this software though. I'll look for it.
All right, we're now live. Okay, great. All right, so we're live. So this is our first incarnation of 5 steps to becoming globally competitive. So Nadia, you're muted.
Hi, welcome everyone to our first installment of our webinar series, 5 Steps to Becoming Globally Competitive. And I'm so excited that we have this opportunity to share this discussion with you, our audience. First and foremost, I would like to introduce myself. I am Nadia Bayer-Thomas, one of the panelists in this discussion this afternoon. And then I would also like to mention our esteemed guest, Makeda Antoine Cambridge. Makeda now resides in Switzerland, but she's really and truly one of our Trinidadian sisters. Makeda has spent 20 plus years in having the experience in international business telecommunications, diplomacy, strategic partnership, business development, commercial strategy, and product management. And the list goes on and on. She has such an extensive resume. Makeda is also our 10th ambassador in the United Nations, representing us for Geneva and Sweden and Switzerland, and the UN Agency for Europe. Additionally, guys, I would like to mention that Makeda is a social entrepreneur, the CEO of Genesis International Limited, where she is committed to empowering communities through technology-driven initiatives and bringing small businesses into the digital economy. Welcome, Makeda.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And finally, I would also like to introduce our Managing Director, Schofield Thomas, who by now you guys are quite familiar with. Welcome, Schofield.
Thank you, and welcome, Makeda. It's really nice having you here. I think you can add a lot to the discussion today.
Excellent. Guys, I really want to jump right in. I really want our audience to have an appreciation, Schofield, first and foremost, as to why we thought 5 steps to become globally competitive was such an imperative discussion that we needed to have today. Can you share that with us?
Sure. Okay, so guys, as you all have been following, you would notice that, the last video we posted, we spoke about an article we read that spoke about the missed digital leap. And really and truly, that is what initiated this whole venture. And we want to emphasize the point that, technology is what we need to use as a vehicle to get us out of whatever we're going to be for the next couple of years as a result of COVID. It will help us to expand. And because we have this forex situation in the country, we see the SME sector as a sector to be one of the pillars in helping us to exit that problem that we have with forex. Because if we help a lot of these SMEs to become globally competitive, then we could offer products internationally. We could earn foreign revenue. We could have repatriation of forex. We are not going to only be dependent on the oil and gas sector. So that is our mission. Our mission is really to help SMEs to understand the role of technology in their business. And technology is not just a part of the business to serve the internet and get emails and stuff like that. We want to highlight to you how do you utilize technology to differentiate. So that's why we have this series going on. It's really educational, and I want it to be a conversation that we have as a community. So that's why we have it as a panel. So that we would have a conversation. It's going to be light. You can ask your questions in the stream, in the chat. You put in your comments. If you have particular questions, feel free. And if after the session you have questions you need to ask, feel free. You can send in your questions. Our email addresses are all in our social media platforms. If you forget them all, you can always send an email to info@800-tech.com, and we would answer your questions. So that's why this week, the first part of it all starts with the strategy. That's why we decided to invite Makeda, because that is an important aspect of transformation, any transformation at all. And ladies, I will
Agreed.
invite you to join at any point in time, to lend your voices to how important the strategy is for transformation.
Makeda, I'll allow you to jump right in.
Strategy. Of all the jobs I've had and all the roles I've played, strategic partnerships and strategic planning by far have been my most exciting and enjoyable ones. Because my siblings will say by nature I'm a planner. I always have a list. Whether it is a whole list of prayer lists to God, or a list for my job, or a list for my community, I always have a list. I believe that if you have no plan, you will get nowhere. And strategic planning is key to success of any project. But in the context of digital transformation, I was thinking of how should I share this in this discussion? And what came to mind is I was born 1978, right? So I probably look a little bit younger than I am, but 1978. And in that
I hope we all do.
In that time, we didn't have electricity. So there were lamps. I come from deep south. There were lamps. And I remember mommy would have a lamp in the living room. There might be a lamp in the kitchen. It's not going to be in every room because you don't want it to burn down the house. And if you had to go from one place to the next, you take in the lamp and you're going with you to the next room. I think it was either primary school, probably I was 10, 11, and electricity came to town. And I remember I have cousins who are electricians by profession, and I was always a daddy's girl. So somehow I was involved in these projects. And I remember the whole project of introducing electricity to our home. It wasn't just stealing somebody's electricity and putting a bulb in one bedroom or one living room. It was an entire project. Planning, which room, wiring, grounding of wires, parallel and series circuits. If it was the kitchen, making sure it had the capacity for the fridge. If it was a stove, making sure whatever was needed. If it was the washing machine, everything had to be planned. And Daddy would say, if it's not done properly, you can end up with a short circuit. You can end up with burning down your house. Digital transformation is funny. Doing research for this piece, we are preparing for the 4th industrial revolution, which is understood to mean digitization in a whole different speed and capacity. But the 2nd industrial revolution was really electricity. It came to transform how we did what we did, processes, industrial employment. So digital transformation is the same type of planning that has to go into getting the whole thing done. It's not about taking one room and putting electricity in one room. It's not about taking 2 rooms and then the rest of the house in darkness. It's about planning, having a proper plan involving strategies, processes, resources, political will, leadership, because you're looking at a major project that is going to transform the way you do things. And that day
it's actually funny, Makeda, that you actually mentioned electricity, because I think that will give everybody an opportunity to embrace and understand the concept, because electricity don't just impact one room. When you get electricity to your house, it impacts every room in the house and all appliances in the house.
Not just every room, Schofield, because if you're in a trace like we would live, and that house had got electricity, and we had a house on the hill, and then you turn on the light, it was like a lighthouse in the darkness. So digital transformation, the strategy behind that is not just impacting you and your personal family, and because you're impacting your community. Because once people saw you went from darkness to light, it was like, okay, how much are costing? Hire that electrician. And it's the same kind of impact. It is meant to transform the way we do things. And there are countries in Africa right now that have load shedding. Today, my girlfriend in Cape Town had load shedding. 4 hours of the day, no electricity. So to North Trinidad and Tobago, we have no issues like that. We are ready from an infrastructure.
One of the points I want to, you mentioned something, Makeda, which is critical, because back then, electricity was such a light bulb moment, excuse the pun, But now electricity is literally the backbone. We don't think about it when we use our microwave. We don't think about it when we use our can openers. Digital transformation is literally the new version of electricity,
Correct.
where it is simply the vehicle for productivity, efficiency, and all the other things that can elevate your organization. But it is becoming very much the new version of electricity in organizations, where it's a must-have, period. And I think that is an appreciation that persons need to get as entrepreneurs, as executives in organizations. It's not an option anymore. It is literally as important as electricity in your organization.
Guys, you know what the sad part about this? It exists in most businesses already. The technology is there on tap.
Yeah.
And if you look at that example that Makeda raised, the whole fact that in a community when electricity came to your community, what did it allow you to do? You could vote later. You know, you're no longer restricted in terms of time, what time you have to get home before sunset, because now you have light. You know, you can have extended hours externally to do whatever you like to do.
Correct. You have electricity in the basketball court and in netball court.
Agreed.
Exactly. It allowed you more, you know, it was more expansive in terms of what you can actually accomplish. Similar in kind, in the business, utilizing technology would also facilitate that type of thing. But if we look at the phrase digital transformation strategy, we understand what digital is. Digital is the technology. What is the transformation? And Natalie, you want to touch on what the transformation?
And the transformation, guys, is really the journey taking us from that current state where we are right now, where we exist, and taking us to that targeted or future state. That is the transformation. And it goes beyond just, as Makeda rightly said, it goes beyond just the technology component of it. It composites a lot of factors within the organization. The people factor, getting the leadership involved. It also involves, of course, the dollars and cents factor. We can't negate that, but there are a lot of other components. So digital, to your point, Schofield, is simply just that vehicle that takes us from the then to the now, or rather from the now to the future state. My apologies. That's really what it's all about.
And what I want to highlight also is the strategic part of it, strategy. What is the strategy? The strategy in a business, normally in businesses, we would hear, oh, we're doing a strat plan, you know, or we planning the strategy for the next 5 years, 3 years. What is the strategy really? It's really a differentiator from your competitor.
Yes.
You know, so that's why if you put them all together, that digital transformation strategy, it's you transforming your business to be more competitive.
Exactly.
Than your competitor, utilizing technology.
Yes.
You know, that is what it is. And in an environment like this, what we're operating in, with COVID and the restrictions and, you know, the lack of movement and those sort of things. And then, of course, every business now is faced with the challenge of foreign exchange, right? And this is something that affects everybody. Even if you're in an essential company and you're able to conduct your business as normal, your forex is going to be there for you. That's your cap is going to be there. It's going to be in your face. And even if it hasn't reached your industry yet, it's going to get there. It's going to get to you. But how do we actually leverage and you know, free ourselves from this issue? Using technology, utilizing technology with a sound strategy in place, it will help us to come out of this bind that we're in. And another misconception that we have is that digital transformation strategy is for technology people. That is not so. You know, the technology people, they follow instructions, they guide, and they enable a strategy. That's what we do. So when we have the board of directors planning a strategy, and it's kept at that level, at the board level or the managerial level, and it's not communicated to the technocrats or the other employees, then that strategy isn't communicated. You know, so how do you expect to execute your strategy, you know, with any level of efficiency?
I agree with you, Scofield, because I think we're hammering in the point, and I think by now our audience understands it's more than just technology. The digital, yes, is the vehicle, but the strategy is not just us understanding the vision of where we want to take the organization, but we have to ensure, and this is a critical component. A lot of times, and we've all sat in those meetings where the executive team says, listen, I want this to happen, but they don't understand their role in the process. They don't understand that it's not just the technocrats executing, but them actually being the leaders. They are the ones that are supposed to be holding that torch and running it up the hill. Because if you do not have that mindset to change other mindsets in the organization, if you are not the one holding that torch and running it up the hill and saying, this is the direction that we are going in, it simply becomes plugging in technology as opposed to a transformation taking place. Because at the end of the day, the transformation should not just be a slapping in technology, but really an exercise where when you look at that organization, it should look, feel different. It's almost like if you're doing a renovation to a house, that feeling of difference should be there. Looking at the processes, re-engineering the processes, looking at your competitors on the outside and saying, okay, this is where we are. This is where our competitors are. Do we want to match our competitors or do we want to supersede our competitors? And really coming and honing in on that vision that can achieve that for us. And now putting in the steps that can achieve that, holding that torch and running it up the hill. And that is very, very critical in the discussion. It's not just technology.
But
Makeda, I want
if I may add,
share your experience.
Yes.
So I think firstly we have to be clear. We have to be clear on the definitions. So
Agreed.
there is digitization. So you scan a physical document or you convert it from one form to automated digitized form. Yeah. And I remember working on that birth paper project in 2000 when the ministry, we had to scan documents and then they created the file and then we were entering people's birth paper. And then there's digitalization where the processes are being digitized. So let's say you want to introduce new training. So you will no longer be paying your bills, you're coming in physically, you're doing it online. And then there's digital transformation, which is like the mother. So for some, digital transformation is a combination of many digitalization process. But at the core is really transforming your business and your strategy, becoming more customer-centric and focusing on a different plan using technology as your tool. So you are still the parent and technology is your child. You're using technology as it benefits your business, your community, your country. And I think understanding that we need to move from point A to point B in that planning phase, if the definitions are not clear, then the number one reason for failure of these projects, and I was reading 73% of all digital transformation efforts end up in failure. Because you either started with the wrong goal because the definition was not clear. So you decided, I'm going to do 2 rooms. And then they said, yes, go ahead with that. And there's no stakeholder analysis. There's no analyzing of the environment, external, internal, your own environment. There's no liaising with all, diagnosing the problem and then deciding this is what I'm going to introduce as resources, as a solution. Because you didn't start planning the thing properly. You didn't have a proper goal to start with. So in that strategic planning process, if you're not starting off with the right goalpost of the proper definitions, then any effort that you have invested in ends up being a null one because you haven't decided what is point A and what is point B. And how can you assess how effective you've been in trying to deliver point A and point B? So I think for small businesses who very quick to say, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and a number of the tools are free, whether it be financial applications, whether it be cloud computing, I think just take a second and look at your existing processes. Look at where you are, look at what the industry is doing, look at what your competitors are doing, then decide what will work for you. Because digital transformation, strategic planning is a process. And if you start off that you're going to build the house and you did not dig the foundation that deep, then the room going to fall apart. Start with the plan. Decide what you want to go.
Yeah.
And even you see people build one room, and then they build a second room, and then they build the third room, and then they end up a 3-story house. But they started with a proper plan. They work with their resources. They did their research, and then you say, "Whoa, mansion!" It's the same thing for your small business. Take a moment and assess, and then tap into the opportunities.
A misconception that we keep seeing is that business owners always try to just digitize their processes as is, without adding the innovation in there, adding the efficiency in there. So we've always had to stop projects and say, listen, why are we just converting this old broken process into a digitally broken process?
Yes.
Why are we doing that? There's no efficiency here. All we have is a digital. It's going to be working a little faster, but it's inefficient.
And sometimes I say,
process.
Not intentionally, but like almost every job I had, I started when they started to do something new. So it was always change management in practice. And you saw humans naturally resist any change.
Yes.
So unless you engage
I
them,
agree with you, Makeda.
they're going to sabotage your project.
I think the interesting thing is, from the conversations that I've had with entities I've worked with, everybody is, yes, we need to do this. Yes, this needs to happen. But they don't recognize that whole change exercise, they're actually a key component in it. It's not just the technocrats. It's not just, no, it's literally from the very top of the organization all the way to the bottom. Everybody has to be.
And if I may add, is like change everything except what I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very true.
And if everybody is saying that, then you're like, so we're not changing anything.
Exactly. Guys, I just want to stick a pin a minute. This conversation is excellent, but we have a question coming in, and it says, how do you convince your staff about the importance of digital transformation?
You want to take that, or you want to take it?
Okay, so I will suggest not to scare them, but if digitizing or digitalizing a process is going to be cheaper for me, the employer, why would I want to keep you? But if I train you and you improve your productivity levels, then I have reason to keep you. So it's either you join me on the process, or I find a way to replace you. And I say that with all the respect, because we see Kodak and Nokia. It happens to the small business too. Unless you jump on board, you will be left behind. You will lose your job. You will lose clients. You will lose revenue. And the second thing I would suggest, show them the benefit.
Yes.
Show them it. So let them like, wow, that's taking 15 minutes to do, and we would just take 2 days to do that. Show them the benefit. You must be invested in the project yourself. You do it, you test it, engage them, and then say, wow, this thing works. So I have seen, depending on the culture of the organization, I have seen both strategies work. Because some people, you can show them how much and not changing. You can't change this. I hear, I'm going, you're not moving me. And some people, like, once you see it, like, oh my God, that's amazing. And always use power of influence, because there's nearly always one staff member who could influence the others. So try engaging them in the process, because then you need their help on the ground. So
what I also find useful is when you actually have those focus groups where they can share with you, because they're very eager to share with you all the sticking points in the organization, all the bottlenecks. This doesn't work and that doesn't work, etc., etc. And when they're able to share that with you, and then you can show them in a meaningful way how quickly through digitization you can get it to happen. That is so helpful. That is because it's real. It's something that they can hold on to and experience for themselves. Regardless of what department it's in, it doesn't matter. When you can even bring it to life, where you can say, hey, listen, guys, online banking, rather than you spend the time driving to the utility, getting in line, paying your bill, you can just get online in a matter of 2 minutes. That is technology. That is the beauty of digitization. That's the beauty of processes being using technology as a vehicle to execute. That is how digitization works. When you can really hone in on real life examples that they experience on a daily basis, it really helps the conversation and helps it to move forward.
So
I have seen, sorry.
Go ahead.
That's okay.
No, I have seen incentives work too. Because when I was at TSCT, we tried to introduce the online payment. So that was under my team,
Right.
getting people to not come into the actual customer center and pay your bill. Go online and
Right.
make a payment. And even when we did focus groups and we reached out to some customers, he was, I want my receipt. I ain't trust them. So you had a culture issue that you were challenging. And culture eats strategy for breakfast. You can have the best strategy
That is
in
so
the
true.
world. If you're not understanding the culture in which you are operating in, you have to do it from the start. Understand and respect that. And I've also seen incentives work. So if you pay online, you get 10% discount.
Makeda, it's really funny that you say that, because most companies that do the transformation process with, we always understand the culture of the company first, because that in itself is going to be huge. Because once you understand the culture, then you know what strategy you need to implement in that culture to get your way and get the transformational process, on its way. So something that we always utilize to step back a bit is we make sure and incorporate different department heads or department technocrats into the transformational process and have them in teams. So you're involved in planning phases, you're involved in the testing, you're involved in the rollout. So when it's time to actually utilize it, what's the issue? Because this is something that you help build, literally. So there are different strategies. I'm not saying that's the only one. There are different strategies that can be utilized to ensure that you get people on board, get the employees on board, and ensure that your transformation is successful.
Scofield, I think you actually answered the next question without even knowing, because it asks, what is the biggest challenge during the strategic planning phase and how can this be mitigated? So that is definitely one of the ways, by simply getting them involved from the jump. Makeda, do you have any others from your experience that really helps in terms of what is the biggest challenge that you faced when you're doing strategic planning and how did you mitigate against that?
I think from my experience, the biggest challenge has been not engaging the right people. So when you're starting that first process of what we want to fix, and sometimes one department, so normally you want to address a pain point, right? And then in investigation, you realize there's a whole lot more happening. So other departments who need to be in the room, other approvals, and sometimes it's getting the right people in the room on the same page. So that is important. And if that is not right, then you're going to start off at a failing point. You have to engage the right people. And then I've seen lack of expertise. So you have the wrong people on the team who are rolling out this strategy. And because they have a bachelor's in comp sci and they did this project and they did that project, you have the wrong people on the team. How the thing going to work? You have to make sure they have some bit of experience, and they don't have to be experts on what has happened before, but there must be a combination of tech skills and people skills to understand that this is like a change management process that you are implementing. It is not just, this is the software, we are going to do it, you will implement it, and that's it.
Approach.
What about you, Scofield? What has been your experience?
Something I want to highlight, some of the challenges I've experienced is where the management team themselves they don't understand what their end result is, what future state is. If you don't understand what your future state is, you cannot have a roadmap to get into there, because where are you going? And that is a huge problem that we have. And funny enough, one of the customers that we service, and we do a transformational process with them, interestingly enough, he had a nice position. He said, understand what experience you want your customers to have, and then work backwards from there. That was like, it was so important. And I listened to it and I'm like, that is really important. Understand what experience you want your customers to have. And then you work backwards to ensure that they get that experience. That is one strategy you could actually utilize. And
that is a type of reverse engineering, which is why.
Exactly.
Because sometimes another flaw I've seen where you want the boss to tell you what is the end result without doing the analysis. So truthfully, they cannot tell you what you should end up with because you haven't done the research, you haven't done the analysis, you haven't looked at the competition, you don't even know what solutions are out there to best meet your need. So I have also
Agreed.
seen that you need to make sure that it's not a top-down approach. Yes, you want that political will and you want that leadership, but it's not a top-down approach. You cannot say, I want to see company X do this and I want to do that. No, no, no. I love that. That's by understanding your strategy. If your strategy is customer-centric, he seems to be a customer-centric man. He's saying, I want the best experience for my customer. Drive that. And sometimes that's a good guide of who you want to be and what you want to be for your company. Because you can say, I want to be as quick as Amazon. That might sound ambitious, but if you look at why are they quick? What have they been doing? What are their processes? You could borrow some things from them for your business. And as small as you are, sometimes you can do it because you're not a huge organization who have to wait on approvals and this and that to do it. So even if you may not know what is your end goal, sometimes by doing the research, you have a better feel and even the reverse engineering of what will work for you.
Agreed.
But what I want also, given your international experience, I want you to indicate, the ease of doing business internationally because of, the adoption of technology,
Yes,
and I think
important.
now that we have COVID, we're seeing some of that.
I know.
And sometimes people get excited for just getting groceries delivered to their door, but that's like standard, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
I lived in Jamaica.
And Makeda, if you can also add in what are the risks associated with a business remaining stagnant from your perspective as well, if you can also include that in your conversation.
So I lived in Jamaica 2007 to 2012. And I remember not having, like where I lived, there were not too many places that actually delivered. And I said, what madness is that? But when they did deliver, they had their portable cashiers, portable
links machines.
Yes. And I was like, this is 2007, 8, Trinidad, didn't have that portable. And I'm thinking, but this is making a lot of sense because it means when you come to my door, I don't need to have cash, which means every time I don't feel like cooking, you are getting my business.
Yes.
Then I lived in Dubai 2012, 13 to 15. And that blew my mind. Okay? Blew my mind. Because grocery coming to your door, every business transaction with the government, they're telling you to take a photocopy and email it via PDF. The only transaction I had to physically go to a government office for was to collect my driver's permit.
Okay.
Everything was online. This is 2013, 14, and I am saying
that's really amazing.
This is the thing to do. No line, no traffic. I mean, it was heavenly. And I traveled probably 2 weeks out of every month. And in the time I was there, so there was such a focus. There was a governmental focus on improving processes, strategies, because they are big on creating businesses, whether it's offshore businesses. So they are big on inviting you to come set up your business and serve the world, have your little co-working space. That is a big push for them. So even if it means I'm starting my business in 2 days, even if it means I am selling my car, because when I left, I sold my car, and the transaction was done in 25 minutes, and I like, this normal. This is not normal.
The ease of doing business.
And Switzerland they're not as technologically advanced as UAE, but since COVID, it was like marathon. Speed. So now everything. You go to any ministry, go online, click on our form. You can call us, go online. So much so that people are preferring to go online. Today, I had to deal with a government organization. All the forms online, print it at home, sign it, PDF it. Never met a person because it is COVID. You are increasing the productivity of your citizens. That I don't have to take a day to go somewhere, and then somebody won't answer the phone, and if they answer the phone, is attitude, and you have the wrong form and go back home.
And the 24/7 accessibility that goes along with it, eh?
It is an increased productivity for you, the citizen. It is increased services for you, the business person, Because when I am working and I am not going anywhere, and you send me a little reminder via SMS or an email, because I probably looked at your website that I'm having a sale for this lunch, and I say, okay, I'm going to buy it, and you come deliver, I have not left the comfort of my home. And I have all the services. I would say to my husband, I only go out on a Saturday for a walk. And it is the truth. It is the whole truth. I stay inside all the time because I don't need to go outside. And you're not in a place where you're disadvantaged as a citizen. Because now if you're home and you're trapped and you don't have access, then you feel like I have missed. Just to mention your point on what is the risk. The risk is you become obsolete. The customer will gravitate to the business that provides their services that they require in the timing that they require. I'm not going to call B, company B, even if I know you and I like you, because company C is coming in 10 minutes. Company C is giving me a variety. Company C is giving me a discount, and I can pay with my credit card, my debit card. Company A probably requires me to come and pick up the food, pay by cash. You need to understand that this is not anybody bullying you to try this because it's our industry. It is for your own benefit. And I mean, the data has shown investing in technology reduces your cost. And you normally say, oh, that means I'm going to fire staff. Not necessarily.
No, it doesn't.
Because if you were planning your business correctly, you didn't need to have any extra staff in the first place. Now, what I have seen, even for Genesis, I run it from Switzerland. I have staff in Barbados, Ghana, Trinidad. I can increase my productivity level. Because now I'm saying to you, well, just make sure, let's with you would have to say, well, I have to go into Port of Spain and drop off the form, and I have to go here. You are there just focusing on what I ask you to, and I'm saying bring new ideas, bring new solutions, bring new. So understanding that it helps you grow, it helps you bring new revenue streams, because if you were not marketing via social media or your website, then there's new people you can attract as new clients. It also reduces your cost. So it's a win-win anyway. And I do understand the fear. I do understand the fear, robotics,
that
AI,
the
they come to
problem.
take over. But I am Christian and a woman of faith. We have dominion over these things. If you are afraid of it, how can you be in control of it? It's better that we know and then decide what's best for us than we don't know and then it negatively impacts us.
And Makeda, you know what's sad for me, and it is something close to my heart, is because those facilities that you speak of, they exist here. They can be enabled here. I remember, for instance, we had online banking probably 15 years ago. We had online banking using it. A lot of people just refuse to use online banking and have adoption, a rushed adoption now because of necessity.
Because of COVID.
COVID. And that same thing, doing your forms online. We have technology and solutions to implement those things and enable that, and it's just fear, like business owners in terms of utilizing this technology, and I want to just quote something that I read, digital transformation is about leadership and how we manage our people using technology. And that resonates. It is about leadership. It's not just about buying computers and plugging them onto the net. No, it's a whole ecosystem, and we've been trying to educate people and business owners now specifically that it's an ecosystem that you're building, an ecosystem that would help you to catapult your business further, and be able to compete internationally.
Agreed. But sometimes I have learned, Schofield, is that people not going to listen to you till they figure out what is there in it for me. So I like saying to you, this is the benefit to you. This is the direct benefit to you. I understand your fears. Let's work through them. Because they are genuine fears, lack of trust of institutions. Those are genuine fears. Somebody say, my bank account, I had 200, now it's at 20, and they're thieving my money. No, do not dismiss somebody's genuine fear. Because they might be something like that and they had $200,000 that they have wherever. So you don't dismiss feedback. And just like you said, that leadership thing is working with your people.
Yes.
It is a proper awareness, is information. Information is power. It's
and also
mitigating
that fear, Makeda, that injecting that technology, bringing in digital transformation does not mean your job is gone. it means retraining, retooling, whatever the case might be, to better serve the core function of the business, which is what it's all about. Because all of those labor-intensive tasks, all of those processes that really don't require that amount of attention from the human element can be eliminated, and you can better serve to the bottom line and the core function of the business. And I think that is the education part that the leadership miss sometimes, to bridge that gap and to really eliminate the fear that a lot of their employees experience. Because the minute they hear digital transformation, everybody hits the panic buttons because they figure, okay, I'm on the bread line. Next is a pink slip.
No, and you would think, oh, it's just certain people. It's not just certain people. It's human nature. You're wealthy, you're poor. It's human nature. I remember when I worked for the company in Dubai, who's a unicorn right now. I mean, they're huge. And my boys just introduced this new digitalization of our process. We said, what? They want to monitor us. They introduced Trello. They introduced it. We were like, whoa. Don't even consult us. But we ourselves as employees, what's with all these new systems? They want to monitor what time we're on the computer. And then they had an explanation and said, this is where we're taking the company. We want you to be involved. And I'm like, okay, all right. We're okay. We can do this. This is not bad. And talking about people who are managers with an ICT background. And still your first natural human response was, what we need a system for? Why are you introducing this? You're going to replace us? You monitoring me? So I have seen it's not just about you're uneducated or you don't have a degree. This is human nature. If you bring in something new, I'm sure when people first saw electricity and they're accustomed to the light, they probably say, what kind of thing is that? What is that? That is some magic or some madness. But if you expose them to the benefit to them, now you can do this. Now you can do that. Then they're like, let me hear what you're saying. And it is not easy. But countries that have lived in, fortunately, that have adopted all this technology, it does start at the top. It does start with leaders, whether it is community,
changing mindset,
church, the bosses, whether it is politically, it does start with leaders.
And to that point, address that concern, we identify that as one of the issues also. We've come up with this concept called proof of concept. Where we actually digitize a part of a process for somebody to show them that, it is possible and it's easily adaptable in your environment. So we've always been using this proof of concept, to showcase the business owners that, hey, you can actually digitize your processes quite easily. We know how to do it. And this is just a sample of what it would look like. And it's very similar to what you have on paper. So we try to keep it very similar to what you're accustomed to doing. So employees don't have a hard time.
I have seen that. And sometimes, even because your intentions are good, sometimes, how do I say this? I think the proof of concept works. I think it works because it convinces, oh, I can do this, I can do this. But I have seen the naysayers say, well, that was in a perfect environment. That can't work here. I have seen that too. And so I am a firm believer in talk to your people. Talk to your people. Inform your people. Educate your people. And even include them in the prototype. So it doesn't seem like something that you have created without their involvement, because their first response is, well, that's not for us. You probably created that for somebody else and bring that for us. Somehow people buy into what they are part of. And I know you might have some trust issues. You might have employees that you may not necessarily want to involve in a thing, but you may want to bring, I like to say, the influencer. There's always one or two who has more influence than others, or the one or two who they're running the show. Even if you're the CEO, that you build a whole measure of trust. And if I have to be really, really honest, you should be a leader by yourself. Because if you're not somebody who's trustworthy as a leader, as a CEO, then whatever you bring, I'm going to be mistrustful of. I think that is the starting point of what you're going to introduce. And even if you're not that trustworthy, find somebody who you think could bring the team together. Because if they're not for you,
agreed,
they will sabotage.
Yes.
Guys, as we wrap, any final words? Anything that you want to leave with the business community?
I think on my end, I just want to leave the message of leaders need to change their own mindset before they can change the mindset of their organization. And I think that's critical for me on my side. Makeda?
On my side, for my clients, because at Genesis we do business coaching with small businesses, and sometimes my clients, they can be an online teacher to somebody selling CMOS, to somebody selling roti. I mean, it's a variety of clients you're dealing with. And sometimes they don't always appreciate, I don't need this, I don't need this. And I am proof of concept. I said, try this.
Mm-hmm.
Try it on this one thing and tell me if it took you less time, if it made you more money, if it brought you new clients. And they think this work.
Yes.
So that trying, testing, involving works. And even if you are not so sure, call and talk to somebody. Sometimes they will offer you a solution for free.
Yes.
Just for you to test it because they understand you. And there are a number of software and ICT applications for free. So if you don't want to spend 10,000 or 100,000 on a project, test it with free solutions. But don't stand still. This is the time for movement. This is the time for progress. And I want my amazing country to be leading the thing. We are well poised. We just need to take our place and our space and make this happen.
And I think collectively, we all as young people, we are going to be driving force. And I want to say to business owners and people who are in charge, let's discuss fears. Let's have a discussion around what you're fearful about. We do the proof of concept. We discuss your fears. We get your teams together, and we have a nice roadmap that can help you to get on that path without too much risk. Without too much fear. You contact any one of us, Makeda, Genesis, myself, Nadia, 800 Tech. You contact us, we will show you how to go about this. And we'll also listen to your fear. So let's discuss your fear. It's all conversational, and every transformational process that we've done has been a conversational process where we speak for probably 2 to 3 months, and then we see some adoption. So thank you very much, ladies, for spending your time this afternoon with us. And I know, Makeda, you have an event coming up.
Yes. So we're all about digital transformation. Genesis supports small businesses, women, youth, agripreneurs, and techpreneurs. Techpreneurs seem to be a new concept for people, but it's somebody whose base of their business is technology. So 800 Tech could be considered a techpreneur because your business is technology. You create an app, you run totally on website, you can be considered that. And we want to focus on the technology aspects because we want to help diffuse that fear. We want to tell you, yes, you might be hearing about Bitcoin and this, but there are digital currencies that could be useful for you. Digital financial inclusion is important. So we have a webinar on Tuesday, June 8th, 1 to 2:30 p.m. And we discuss digital currency, blockchain, artificial intelligence, tech accelerators. How can you tap into these digital opportunities for your small business? And much like Schofield allowed me to say, thank you, I don't want to be overselling, but we do offer we do offer a free 30 minutes consultation. So even if you just want to talk, you want to talk about what is going on, how COVID has affected your business, what do you have in mind, where would you like to take your business? We're here to help guide you, coach you. And even if you're not a client of ours, we believe in sharing the information and letting you know that this technology and this information is nothing to be afraid of. I believe as people of African descent, we are less than 5% are actually working in the field. And if they are creating solutions for us and we're not around the table, then we can even be more negatively impacted. We need to become more involved.
Yeah, and guys, we're all about collaboration. So with Genesis and 800 Tech, we're going to collaborate. We're going to help you. We are all about the mission at the end of the day. The mission is to help small businesses. And you can check our social media platforms. You're going to see the flyer for Genesis International Blockchain Conference that they're having. So look out for it on our social media platform. And, we're just here to ensure that we answer your questions and your fears. And this is going to be a series that's going to be going on every week between the month of June and July. We're going to have different presenters. We're going to have different conversations. And we're going to keep going down the line, on how you can actually execute in your strategy and stuff like that.
So guys, let's stay tuned for next week. Next week, we're going to be discussing all about the planning phase. And that's going to be a really in-depth discussion. So stay tuned next week, Thursday at 2 p.m. for the planning phase for 5 steps in becoming globally competitive. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Makeda.
Thank you, Makeda.
Schofield. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, 800 Tech. It was a privilege.
You're welcome.